Welcome! I'm so glad you're here. I'm Gila Ross, author of Living Beautifully and host of the Confident Parent podcast, the podcast you need to listen to bring more joy, more ease, and more intention so that you can be the parent you want to be for your kids.
So we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to give you a scenario which I'm sure none of you have ever experienced in your whole entire parenting career up to date. But let's just imagine this. Imagine you take your kid. Let's make that kid the joyful age of 3. For those of you, and I know there's a couple here with younger kids, 3 is 2 with experience. So let's say you take your 3-year-old out to the park, and you've both had a wonderful time, and it's time to get back into the car on the way home. And your 3-year-old looks at you, and it's the summer, and you say, okay, jump into your car seat. And the 3-year-old looks at you and says, no, it's too hot. I want to sit in a seat like Sam. Now, Sam happens to be his 10-year-old cousin who he idolizes. And obviously, as a 10-year-old, he sits in a regular seat. What do you do then? As I said, it might be a scenario that you may have never come in. I've heard that there are some children that sometimes say no to their parents. But let's for a moment imagine that we are trying to parent such an imaginary child that would say no to their mum or their dad. What are you going to do at that point? Firstly, can anyone relate to the frustration when you're trying to get home and you're trying to get that kid in the car and the kid says no? Just me? Oh, phew. Okay, we have some normal parents in the room. Fantastic. Well done. Any ideas of what you would do at that point? I remember we're all parents. We've all been there. We've been in the trenches with the kids that have said no, dug their heels in. They're 3. There's no rationalizing with a 3-year-old. So what anyone wants to share what you may do?
I'd bribe with a treat.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Bribery.
All right.
Yeah. What else works, right? Bribery or punishments, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Try and explain. It depends how patient you are that day, but maybe try and explain like that they can't go in that seat because it's not safe. It depends how. If it really is that hot, you've probably got not that patient. You just go, shut up and get in the chair.
All right. Now, the follow-up question is that I want to ask you is, how well have these tactics worked?
To bring them up well, with manners.
Okay, good manners. That's helpful.
I personally I just want to be proud of my children to know that when they are out of my company, that they're still behaving how I would hope they would behave. Do you know what I mean? That they, without me being there to say please and thank you, that they do that naturally. You know, those kind of things that you instill in your children, those natural like morals and that kind of thing. I just would hope that they would carry that on. That's my kind of end goal, that they will just carry on being mensch, if that's what the right word to use.
Okay, and it's without your prompting. Okay, I think
ideally.
Sorry, yes, with ideally, right? These are all good goals. Anyone else wants to weigh in with anything else?
For them to be happy, and secure.
Okay, Lucy said happy, which I love, because at some point everyone always brings up that one that we all do want to bring to for our kids to be happy. If our kids is let's hold on to that thought. Let me ask you a question. Think in your head, what's the ideal 8-year-old like? Now, for some of us may have already 8 or older kids that are age 8 or older. What does your ideal 8-year-old look like?
Polite, friendly, do as they're told, don't shout at you, don't slam doors, don't say no, go to bed when you tell them. Basically everything that my kid is not.
I was just gonna say, oh, easy then, right?
Well, I gotta say the kid next to you looks a little bit younger than 8, but I get the point.
He's also got that face that is very, very cute and hard to say no to. which is a problem in parenting, right? What does your ideal 18-year-old look like? Now try and imagine your child. Anyone here has an 18-year-old? What does your ideal 18-year-old look like?
Independent.
Independent?
Probably quite. I remember when I was 18, I was a bag of nerves because you're about to embark on like the biggest change in your life. If you go to uni, that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Now-
think I was just going to say,
sorry.
someone, an 18-year-old is, for me, my child would be someone that I can trust. So that has listened to me and is going to be honest with me. With
That's
my
a good
idea.
one. That's a really good one. Until you give them the car keys, then the trust, I'm not so sure, right? Now, let's fast forward to a 35-year-old. What does your ideal 35-year-old look like?
Give you grandchildren.
Okay, that's a good one. So I want to contrast, like Amy answered that you know, at 8, you want your child to listen when they're told to go to bed on time, do their homework, etc. When your child is 35, we have different goals for them, right? At that point, do I care if my child listens? Not really.
I feel like I'm more the parent now. No disrespect to my mum because she is amazing, but I feel like I'm sometimes more of an adult than she is now.
And you know what, like with all, you know, like I don't know your mum, but I'm sure that your mum would be proud of the fact that she's raised a child who is able to make adult decisions, right?
Yeah.
When we say we want our children to be happy, just to throw out a scenario, imagine if I raised a 35-year-old and he's a happy kid, but he lives in the basement playing video games all day long. Would we consider it job well done? No. Now, obviously, every child has their own free will, so we're not getting into that part of it. But when we say what I'm trying to show here is that depending on the age of our child, we have different expectations. And a lot of times when we're parenting, we're in the trenches, we're in the right now, right? I want my child to go to bed today, now, right? We don't often step back and say, hold on a second. What is the goal of parenting? So what I want to share with you is a goal, and I want to hear what you think of that.
To raise a child is to nurture the child to the point where the child is ready and able to fulfill their specific purpose in this world, using their unique strengths and managing their weaknesses.
Thank you. How does that sound as a parenting goal?
Do you have to be perfect?
Touch on that because that's a very, very important point to bring up. Any other thoughts?
Doesn't it imply that it's not really how they turn out is not actually related to what you want? It's already in them. It's saying it's what their purpose is, rather than. I feel like that's telling me that they already have an end goal, and you're just helping them get there, rather than you helping them to get to an end goal that you would quite like.
You've touched on a really, really, really important point. In Hebrew, the word for education is chinuch. Now, when we translate it into English, it gets lost a little bit. Chinuch shares the root with to inaugurate. Now, what happens when you inaugurate? Imagine your child's school is building a brand new building and they have an inauguration. At what point would they have the inauguration? They're going to have it when the building is ready for use, right? When it's all ready, when the kids are ready to move into the classroom, then they'll have the ribbon ceremony. What does education mean? Education means it's the same thing. It's what Nikki said, is that each of us was gifted a child. Now, a lot of times we have our dreams and our visions of what our kids are going to be, but we are gifted a unique child, and our unique child has unique strengths and unique weaknesses. And that unique child has a unique mission in the world that only they can do. And what our job as a parent is to help our child discover their strengths their weaknesses, how to bring out their strengths, and how to bring out their weaknesses, right? So you know the famous joke of my child, the doctor, my child, the lawyer? That's not education. It's my child, a successful educator is able to help the child understand themselves and deal with themselves. That's able to help them understand how to use their strengths, how to compensate for their weaknesses. And as Lisa said, that definition of education is vague, and it has to be vague, because I'll tell you what, we have 8 kids and every single one of them is different. I don't know how many children there are between the parents on this group, 20, 30. I guarantee you every single child is different. And that's why the goal for your child and your child and your child, and or even if you have more than one child, for each of your children is going to be slightly different, because your children are different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a piece of homework to do over the week, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the rest of the course is going to be like. So to go back to the situation of Jimmy in the 3-year-old who's tantruming and won't get into the car. My short-term goal is to get them into the car. My long-term goal is to get this child to be an adult who understands their strengths and their weaknesses. The question that we're going to ask ourselves is, what message is my action, or are my actions going to tell this child? What message do I want to tell the child? Now, I'll just throw some different messages out to you. You may want your child to know, especially if your child is telling you, I'm hot, I'm hot, I'm hot, that you hear them. You may also want to tell the child to hear the message that mommy or daddy, whoever it is going to make sure that you are safe, even if you don't want to sit in that seat that we are sitting in, right? So there's all these different messages. And when we take a step back and we say, what message do I want to send my kids? We may react differently. That's your homework for this week, because we've just sort of started, we've just given you a snippet, an idea of zoning out. What's the goal of parenting? I want to help my child understand their strengths, use their strengths, and learn how to live and compensate for their weaknesses, right? So your homework is, when you have these interactions with your child, stop and think, what is the message that I am giving to my child? What is the message that I want to give to my child? We're going to look at a few different mindsets, because parenting is not just a bag of tricks. It's also some mindsets are very, very, very powerful, right? We're going to look at also some tools. We're going to give you a bag of tools that you can then use in different situations and with different children together. And we're also going to give you some easy to use strategies that will help you incorporate those tools into your parenting.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like us to cover any specific topics or you have any questions, please get in touch. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your questions for future episodes. And please take a moment, think about someone else who might benefit from this and forward it on to them. If you enjoyed this podcast, you'll love my book, Living Beautifully, for more insights on how to bring meaning, joy, love into your life based on timeless Jewish wisdom. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out.